All right, you may start.
Thank you, Mr. Mooney. So I'd like to call to order this September 7th, 2023 meeting of the Norwalk Shellfish Commission. It is 7:16 and the chair notes that a quorum is present with 3 commissioners. Has attendance been taken?
It has. If everybody could mute though, there's a lot of
Yeah,
noise.
someone has very high background.
Pete, can you mute your,
Okay, that's better.
Yeah, I think it may have been Nick.
Yeah, great. Approval of the minutes from the August meeting. Questions, comments, or if I could have a motion? Hearing none. Nick,
motion to accept the minutes?
thank you, Nick. Seconded, Pete?
I'll second it.
Great, and all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, so 3-0. Public comment, I note that there is one person on. If she would like to participate, please raise your hand and be recognized by the moderator. Seeing that she has not, we'll continue into the treasurer's report. Bill, please.
Okay, okay, so the current balance, well, if it's okay, I'd like to go back to June. I read one last month, and by the time it actually transpired, it was past the meeting. So the end of June, they included that expenditure of $3,000 to the Harbor Commission. So that brought the balance at that time to $24,213.17. Then with this signature, the revenues increased because of the clam permits, and that was $2,495, bringing the current budget and balance to $26,708.17.
Great. Bill, if you could remind me, are we square with respect to the Harbor Master boat canvas enclosure?
That I don't think so, Steve. I think that's still outstanding at this point.
Okay.
I don't think it was totally, I'm not sure if they came to a firm figure. So I'll have to look into that for next month, if that's okay.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks.
It's been fully paid for. So I'm surprised that I know the amount was divided somewhere, but.
Okay, I'll do some follow-up on. Thank you, Alan.
Thank you very much. So the secretary's report, I do have a brief report and commentary, especially with respect to the proposed zoning changes. In particular, the loss of the northern half of the Marine Commercial District on Water Street, and essentially a moratorium on onshore shellfishing infrastructure in the East Channel, as well as explicitly stated in the plan for both properties. The coastal floodplain management has been settled regulation with the Coastal Management Act for 45 years. It's my personal opinion that the changes being proposed are just too big and represent just too much of a fundamental cultural change in Norwalk to let it go through this current regulatory process. I'd call on people from both sides of the aisle to propose a referendum for this, such that Norwalkers could decide the way this should go. And with respect to the density increase, I heard a lot of people interested in increasing density such that it promotes equity. And I don't see how the potential loss of more modest boat slips is a move toward equity, especially with respect to our very rapidly growing fishing and shellfishing Hispanic community. I'd find that tragic to lose a significant portion of our dockage in Norwalk Harbor. I also like to note that our bond request is still on the table with the harbor master as far as the barge moorings are concerned. We can stay tuned through the month in terms of how that works out. I think there'll be probably more news once the next Harbor Management Commission meeting rolls around. And lastly, just to recommend to all listeners to have all eyes on Hurricane Lee for next week. It is forecasted at some point to be 160-mile-an-hour Category 5. We're way outside the cone in terms of time, but the spaghetti models have tracks as far west as the Maine Massachusetts border, and even that far away would be a very big deal for us. So that's all in terms of the Secretary report. Committee reports, again, Bill, for the Department of Health, please, sir.
Sure. Rainfall for the month of August was 5.68 inches. Last August, it was 0.53. So we're a little bit more on track than what we normally do. Traditionally or historically for this month, or the month of August rather, is 4.13. We had a total of 4 closures on 8/7, 8/13, 8/15, and 8/18, all due to rainfall. And there was 1 bypass which occurred on 8/18, which lasted a total of 47 minutes. That was it.
And that was from the plant, Bill?
That is correct.
Thank you, sir. No one here from wastewater. Mayor's Water Quality Committee, Chairman Schnierlein.
Thank you, Chairman Steve. We had a review of where we were with Vibrio, and apparently there's been no new cases, although my wife read to me that there was an incident up in Noank where they have a problem with shellfish, but she didn't know what the cause was. And I think we'll take a look in it, whether it was poor hygiene on the shellfisherman's part or somebody was out collecting shellfish on their own, but apparently somebody got sick.
Excuse me, no one got sick.
It was Groton. Pardon?
No one got sick in Groton. Norman was up there. I talked to him and no one got sick. What they did is they closed it before anything happened because they got high counts of bacteria.
Oh, that's good to hear. The newspaper article didn't say that much.
No, they didn't say anything. They basically said, oh, you can't eat shellfish.
Yeah.
They shut that area down. Norman and them all got hold of AquaHealth and shut it down till they find what the cause of this is.
Excellent.
All right.
And also we're putting together, Diane Larzella is putting together hopefully another visit to a treatment plant sometime in October. And it would probably take place on a Monday, Wednesday, or Friday, because that was the date most people could make it. If any of you would like to join us, you're more than welcome. Under new business, we spoke pretty intently about the intent to have multiple family housing on Water Street and how it's a conflict with not only what the Harbor Commission is trying to achieve, and it violates everything that they put together, but it also, in the information that I've received from them, from the head of the program, he said there are no hazardous waste sites that we have to worry about. And he explicitly used the word brownfields, and they apparently went and talked to the EPA and got the list from the EPA. But what was pointed out at our meeting was that there are other lists that the EPA may not have. And from the gray hair in this group, some of you guys remember the Pepco place that was there. And then also up the river, there was a place where they recycled 55-gallon drums that contain chemicals. And you know, Jeff's smiling. I have a beautiful picture of the chemicals leaking out all over the place. So we're going to put a letter together asking them not to act on it and to put it on hold until more work is done. And then the other issue that is going to impact Norwalk is the development of the Route 7 and Merritt interchange. The state wants to put in another entrance and another exit so that we can have more access north and southbound. And in the initial statement that was sent out, I personally did not see the word watershed. And that gives me cause for concern, because if they don't address the fact that there's a watershed there, they don't realize that some of our water supply does come from the Silver Mine and the Norwalk rivers. So that could be an issue further down the line. And that was it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I see that Mayor's Water Quality Committee person, Laura Cella, has joined as an attendee. Under new business, I think maybe we could read at least an outline of that letter into the record. I'm certainly interested in the commission co-signing this, should the commission approve. So stand by. Maybe we'll talk about this again in a few minutes. Thank you. Police, I see Sergeant Biseglia with us, the Marine Unit. Please, sir.
Hey guys, sorry about that. Pretty quiet, everything that we've noticed so far. We had some little recreational shell fishing down by the beach, but everything appeared to be within regulations, so no issue there. Water temperature has been between like 76 and 78, depending on the day and where we are. So all quiet, all good.
Thank you for keeping everybody honest and safe, Sarge.
Yeah, but I got to bounce off, guys. So have a good night. Hope you had a good holiday weekend.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for coming. So next is Norwalk Harbor Management Commission. I know I've asked Mr. Stedman to present an outline of the letter of the Norwalk Harbor Management Commission sent since the last meeting, and would also ask Chairman Kibbe his commentary as well. So Jeff, please.
Do you want me to speak before Alan or the chair, or how?
Up to you guys.
Hey, Jeff, I don't know if I've seen the letter yet, so go ahead.
Well, no, the letter is what was sent after the Harbor Commission meeting in response to the proposed amendment to the POCD. And at the Water Quality Committee meeting, we just, let's see if I can get this quickly. And just to summarize, and this is the statement in the letter, that the Harbor Management Commission is not able to make a favorable recommendation concerning the proposed POCD amendment for the reasons described in more detail below, which is in the main part of the letter, including the intended significant reduction of the Water Street Marine Commercial Zoning District, the lack of consideration of Norwalk's state-approved municipal coastal program, and the intended increase in multifamily residential development in the coastal floodplain, contrary to basic principles of floodplain management and resiliency planning. So that's from the letter that was sent to Planning and Zoning after the Harbor Commission's last meeting, and that's the letter that Water Quality Committee discussed at the previous meeting, and the motion from the Water Quality Committee was to express support, essentially, not Diane can read the exact words, but to support the Harbor Commission's findings and recommendations, and then add the additional concern having to do with the fact that the waterfront industrial study does not address in any significant way the location or the presence of contaminated sites in the watershed, in the waterfront area. That might be something that the Shellfish Commission may also wish to express support for. But and then we talked about the history of the contaminated sites, including one site that the Harbor Commission had a significant role in. And I forget, Diane mentioned the 2008, it might have been, but that was the site on the east side of the harbor, the Oyster Bend development site. And if you remember, the Shellfish Commission was quite involved in that also with Chairman Frank at the time. But the owners proposed to a cap on that site. And as Joe mentioned, that was a site that cleaned barrels of chemicals. And Joe, I think, well, anyway, you mentioned it before, Joe, the pictures you had of the barrels buried. But the proposal for the remediation involved a cap on that site. And both the Harbor Commission and the Shellfish Commission were concerned that absent doing something with the bulkhead, we couldn't be sure that the contaminants are not still leaching out or getting out into the harbor through the bulkhead. And we knew also that there were PCBs on the site, and PCBs that were found in the river. And remember, the owner or the applicant did not agree that the PCBs in the river came from that site. But eventually, the EPA required the owner to do whatever the available tests are to compare the PCBs in the river with the PCBs on the site to see if a connection could be made. And it was at that time the owner just dropped the whole project. So there was, our understanding, there was no remediation that took place. But that's just one example of how we know that there's at least that site and others on the waterfront. The redevelopment of which certainly has to take into consideration the history of contamination and the need for remediation. We had a good discussion about that at the Water Quality Committee. So I don't know if Joe wants to read the motion or I don't see Diane on the call.
Yeah, I can do that.
All right.
The motion was,
Diane, sorry, Joe, I don't mean to step on you, but Diane is in the participant list. I could unmute her if you prefer. It's
yeah, go
however you
ahead.
choose.
It came from her.
Diane, you can talk if you like, if you can. No, I don't know. I can't get her to unmute. Sorry.
You want me to read it?
Yeah, perhaps so. I can't get Diane to unmute. Sorry, Diane.
Okay, the Water Quality Committee recognizes the land use planning and regulations are connected to the water quality matters in multiple ways. We recognize that the waterfront does and has remained a vital asset to the city for hundreds of years. The land use study contains many valuable details, but two major items are in need of attention and amendment. The Water Quality Committee shall write a letter to the Mayor's Office and the Planning and Zoning Commission to request that the industrial waterfront zone land use study adoption be rejected and placed on hold until the following matters are discussed with our committee and anybody else. Contaminated sites within the study area. The city's industrial legacy that includes remaining contaminated sites be articulated throughout the document so that it is clear that contamination remains that can be reviewed, prioritized, and resolved with appropriate entities. 3 examples of remaining contaminated sites are the Pepco site of Water Street, the DPW and CT Connecticut DEEP hazmat spill records were not reviewed. They only reviewed what the EPA had. The Yankee Gas, former coal gasification plant, which was off of Commerce Street. Coal tar remains on site and is known by Connecticut Deep Industrial Index done in 1980. And then 23 Platt Street in East Norwalk, AKA the Donahue property and the Oyster Bend Marina. The EPA and Connecticut Deep placed the site on their state and federal list for remediation and engineered control requests. There are many additional sites located within the study area that require a proper review following ASTM standards for phase 1 environmental site assessments. And number 2, the committee supports the letter written by the Harbor Commission related to the question of development of within the floodplain and the reduction of future marine district expansion. And we also request a meeting with the parties in order to fully discuss and review the matter above. That's the letter.
Thank you very much. So I'll entertain a motion shortly under new business, such that the Shellfish Commission might send a letter or email of support for the Norwalk Harbor Management letter, as well as the Mayor's Water Quality Committee letter. So stand by. Thank you, sir. Anything else from Harbor, Alan?
The Amistad is here. That was necessarily a Harbor Management Commission project, but one of the commissioners in particular really was the hero there in getting that to happen. That was Chris McDonald, who really took it on to get funds from the Board of Ed and to really facilitate the project of bringing Amistad here. It's pretty exciting. The Board of Ed is going to be taking school kids there to have classes on the boat, and it's a great thing to kind of overcome the obstacles to getting that into the channel and allow the Coast Guard allowing us to put it there and have it barged out so it's there's enough draft where it is so it can float. So that's wonderful. The other person we should acknowledge is Gary Wetmore and Bruce Lavallo, the harbor master. Both of those guys really worked very, very hard to make this a reality. And Gary Wetmore just contributed way beyond what you'd expect from just a guy who builds docks across the river. He provided his work barge as a transition point from the city docks to the ship. He provided planking on the deck. He drove a couple extra piles for to secure the vessel in case we get the storm that Steve was talking about, so that we have a little bit more way to hold it in place. So his contribution was really from the heart and very well received by, I think, all the harbor commissioners that were involved in the project.
Well, thanks, Alan. Bravo to Captain Wetmore. That's a great community contribution. Very worthy cause. That ends the committee reports. May I have a motion, please, to accept them as read?
Make a motion to accept the committee reports as read.
Thank you, sir. A
I
second, Pete?
second, Pete
All
Johnson.
in favor?
Aye.
Committee reports accepted. I don't have any old business unless you do, Pete or Nick. No. And under new business, I just want to readdress the issue tonight in terms of the Shellfish Commission's stated support of the letter from the Norwalk Harbor Management Commission and the one authored or outlined by Committeewoman Laura Cella to the Mayor's Water Quality Committee regarding the toxic sites as an addition to that letter, if you will, to address more subject matter. I guess I'll take a motion on that for the support of both communications.
I'll make a motion on that, Steve.
Thank you.
Second motion.
Any discussion?
Nope.
Okay, hearing none, I'll call the vote. Aye.
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 Thanks so much to those who've put this together. There's a lot of thought that went into this. It was very well intentioned. So we will have a formal expression of support to the addressees of both letters. Under new business, we have Mr. Hilt here representing 17 Sylvester and 10 Harborview. These are COPs, as I remember, referred to us from Chairman Dr. Pinto of the Harbor Management Commission's Application Review Committee, sent to us as a courtesy for any of our commentary. Mr. Hiltz, if you'd like to share your screen, take it away. Thank you for coming.
All right, thank you. Share screen. Let's see, give me a second here, guys.
Take your time.
First off, Steve, the Hollis, the Hollis is a COP. The Lenkowski is not. It's a pre-app. And
Okay.
I'm sorry, I'm not adept at sharing the screen, so you're gonna have to bear with me.
Now, which one was which in terms of the last names?
The Hollis down in the Harbor View,
Okay, that one's Hollis.
that is not a that is a COP.
Yeah.
And the Lenkowski is a pre-application.
Yeah, sorry, I thought they both were, but it's okay, John. Go ahead.
Okay, just wanted to clarify that.
Sure.
I'm not, I'm not good at sharing screens, so maybe I can just go over both of those projects for you just verbally, if that's okay, Steve.
It is. I don't know if we have hard copy on the 17.
I didn't receive anything back from you when I emailed the Lenkowski pre-app, so I didn't know if you wanted a hard copy now. And I'm happy to send one in just after we discuss this for your files, if you'd like.
Yeah, please. I mean,
Okay,
since
yeah.
that one is, well, I'll let you go ahead, but I
Okay,
think
we'll start with Lenkowski. It's basically the neighboring properties all have docks of similar lengths, and extension of the waterway. This one will be 4-foot wide pier, 73 feet long. Let me just see. It's a 3x36 ramp and a 8x20 float on float stops, so it'll be suspended off the bottom. And it's basically they haven't determined whether they're going to moor a boat there or not. I think it's a rental property, from my understanding. So I think that they just they realize that their neighboring properties have docks. This one will be centered in the middle of the property. The only thing other than the pier itself, there's a set of 30-inch wide steps just off the seawall coming off the pier at an angle. That the reason for the angle is to avoid some wetland vegetation there, while also maintaining the 5-foot clearance at the mean high water line, landward of where the steps are. So there's that. It's basically, as I said, it's in the pre-app phase now. DEP's looked at it and given it their tentative blessing. So that's why I sent it off to you and to Harbor Management as well.
right, so I think what we'll probably do, John, is just take a quick look at it once we get the hard copy.
Okay.
And the 10 Harbor View, I remember that one as being pretty straightforward. It was
10
just
Harbor View simply it would be a dock reconstruction general permit. It's a previously authorized pier, ramp, and float. The reason we did a certificate of permission is the analyst Emily Hertz at DEP looked at the site as an entirety, and there's a bump in the seawall that kind of comes out. There's a flagpole there, and she wanted that to be retained under the COP. And in addition to that, there's some steps there as well that needed to be retained. So they were pre-80, I believe, and that she just said for bookkeeping purposes, for nothing else, it's basically let's include those on the COP. The pier, ramp, and floating dock will be basically the same as what's there now, with the exception that the floating dock will actually be narrower. I think it's a 12 by 12 now. It'll be 10 by 12. It'll be supported on float skids. The current one just sits on the bottom. So there's that. And the current dock is basically kind of a mishmash of some steel supports and some piles, a couple deteriorated timber pilings out at the waterward terminus. This will all be replaced with a pile supported pier that's elevated over the wetlands and sufficient to allow passage underneath at mean high water line.
Thanks, John. Alan and Jeff, do you guys remember what was resolved at Harbor other than the referral to this commission?
I do not.
John, do you recall?
I think you guys were okay with it, but you obviously wanted to get comments
Yeah,
from
I,
Shellfish.
I think that was the finding that.
Yeah, I
and
think
is it
that-
Also a request to show the extended littoral property lines.
Right, and I sent those to John Pinto, the next day, actually. I saw that, you know.
I think that was the
mention to
only
that one.
comment, but waiting to hear from if
I think
Shellfish had any comments they wish to transmit.
That's
Yeah,
fine.
I just remember as being really straightforward. I do remember though, in the
That's-
Google Maps aerial photo, there was a dock, a boat sitting in the mud at low tide.
Right, exactly.
That obviously would need to be a condition that nothing rests on the bottom other than the float stops at low tide.
Right up.
If you want, I have the letter here that was submitted, Mr. Chairman, if as far as our comments are concerned.
I appreciate it.
Do you want me to read that?
Yes, sir, please.
So it's during its meeting on August 23rd, 2023, the Norwalk Harbor Management Commission discussed this matter. This is with regard to 10 Harborview Avenue, and approved a motion to inform the DEEP and the applicant that the Norwalk Harbor Management Commission has no objection to the applicant's proposal, provided the application plans are properly amended to show the applicant's extended littoral property lines and the distance from the proposed dock structure to those lines, which Mr. Hill said, just mentioned that was certainly sent to us. In addition, on behalf of the Norwalk Harbor Management Commission, this is why we transmit the following comments and recommendations pursuant to the review of the applicant's COP application. Is it now, insofar as the proposed work would adversely impact natural shellfish beds and resources, the Norwalk Shellfish Commission may conduct a site visit and submit a statement of comments and recommendations intended to mitigate those impacts. Any comments and recommendations provided by the Shellfish Commission should be addressed by the applicant and DEEP in the COP review process. Again, it is a policy of the Norwalk Harbor Management, the Norwalk Harbor Management Plan, that no float or vessel attached to that dock shall rest on the bottom of the harbor management area during a normal tide cycle. In addition, the applicant's aluminum ramp and floating dock will require winter removal and offsite storage during the period of November 15th to April 15th. And again, a policy of the Norwalk Harbor Management Commission that the applicant provide the Norwalk Harbor Management Commission with an as-built survey following completion of any permitted structure. And the applicant should, and again, was notified that there's going to be some significant construction, that the harbor master be informed of use of any vessels or water-based equipment needed to undertake the proposed project. Stationing of work vessels and equipment must be subject to directions provided by the harbor master as necessary to maintain safe and efficient operation of Norwalk Harbor and to avoid adverse impacts on shellfish resources, including but not limited to adverse impacts caused by stationing equipment overnight and at low tide. So those were our comments and recommendations.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Pete and Nick, any questions for Dr. Pinto and or Mr. Hiltz?
No questions on my side.
I don't have any either.
Okay, so I mean, I saw the original presentation and it is pretty straightforward. I would tend to support what Harbor has exactly. So someone want to move that?
I'll make a motion.
And thank you, and Nick,
Second motion.
and all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, great. And thanks, John, for coming, and Dr. Pinto for outlining that completely. And
I'll get you the hard copy of the Lenkowski pre-app. I'll
Yep.
send it out tomorrow.
we'll knock that out. Thanks, John.
I appreciate it. Have a good evening, everybody.
You're welcome, sir. Have a good
Thank
weekend.
you.
And that's all I see on the agenda. Bill, you have anything else?
No, I don't.
Any other comments, questions? Hearing none, we'll see. Go ahead. Go ahead,
Jeff
Jeff,
has-
please.
I don't know, Joe brought up the discussion we had at the water quality meeting concerning the DOT work at the Merritt Parkway Route 7 interchange. I don't know if that's something you want to discuss tonight. It certainly has a downstream impact on the harbor. And I guess the way we left it is we talked about our concerns with highway infrastructure and our understanding after working with DOT for years to include stormwater management design features in the I-95 bridge. It was our understanding that similar design features would be included in all highway infrastructure affecting coastal water bodies. Unfortunately, that's not the case based on the review of the environmental document that we looked at. So that's something I think we need to be aware of, and in the future we'll keep a alert as to where our opportunities are to influence that project, because the environmental document does not identify highway pollutants and does not acknowledge that they will do anything in their design to mitigate highway pollutants, other than, to the extent practicable, mitigate any unavoidable increases over existing impairments of siltation and sedimentation. And those aren't the highway all of the highway pollutants that we're talking about. So that's something I think that's directly of importance to both commissions, and we'll continue to keep our eyes on that to see how that progresses and where the opportunities are to influence that design, which is what, again, was our understanding after beginning to work with the DOT in 2005 on the issues with the I-95 bridge through the completion of the revised design that DOT did. So I think that's something of much importance to both commissions, in my opinion.
Thanks, Jeff. Jeff, can you point to other projects historically where the Harbor Management Commission and/or Shellfish have commented on things that are that far upriver?
Well, I don't know that I'd argue it's that far upriver, because it's clear that's the whole purpose of the watershed initiative. The watershed initiative was established because of the understanding that runoff from throughout the watershed can affect the water quality in Norwalk Harbor, and particularly the quality of shellfish resources in the harbor. So when that project was first proposed, one of the principal proponents of it was the Harbor Management Commission, with the understanding that what takes place upstream in the watershed affects downstream. And then the other issue, if you remember, was the Aquarian proposal to withdraw water from the I forget what they call the well field in Wilton. I forget. I'll remember the name of it. But that was a proposal to withdraw water from the well field for use in southwestern Connecticut. And if you remember, we attended the public hearing. Many of us did at the Wilton Library, and it was interesting that was a very interesting hearing. Well, I'm going on about it, but Eversource could not address most of the questions that were asked, including the downstream impact on the Norwalk River. And as a result, they withdrew that proposal.
No, it was Aquarian, Jeff, not Eversource.
Aquarian, not Eversource, but although Aquarian is part of Eversource, so.
Oh, that's right. No, that's right. That's right.
You're right. It's Aquarian.
I apologize, Jeff, for the loaded question. That was what I was hoping that you would highlight. And I believe also the commission has commented on dam structures and the removal of the same as well,
right,
that are quote unquote way upriver. So it's certainly the jurisdiction of Harbor, and by extension Shellfish, to comment on those water quality.
Mr. Chairman, the commission the North Harbor Management Commission has always been in the past receptive to anything that goes on up the harbor, because as we know and well know, that anything that affects the Norwalk River and its watershed affects Norwalk Harbor. So we certainly, as a commission, have an obligation to review anything that deals with water effluent into the river, affecting the river, as well as affecting the watershed.
And thanks for your diligence on that. Wholeheartedly supported. Anything else, folks? Seeing no hands raised, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn for the evening.
I'll make a motion.
Second motion.
And thank you, Nick. And all in favor?
Aye.
Everyone have a good Friday and a great weekend. Have fun if you're going to the Oyster Festival, and even if you're not, eat Norwalk shellfish.
Take care all.
Everybody.
Right.